Hello, everyone. Good evening. Dinah's with me. She's in the chat.
Hi, everybody. I'll be muting myself soon, but I'm here in the chat. I'll be with you.
If you've got any questions or anything, Dinah's the one to help you. Okay, so just say hi in the chat. Tell us where you're from, and then we'll get straight into it. Okay, so this is webinar number 2. It's a 4-week course. 5 webinars, 1 at the beginning, 1 at the end, and 4 weeks in between. Really looking forward to this evening. Got some really fun stuff for us to play around with. Maybe you can just mute yourself, Dinah, and then...
Sorry, yes.
Yeah. And then that's it. Okay, so it's great to see everyone turning up. We've got over 100 people on this webinar, which is fantastic. Really looking forward to it. So I'll just tell you what we've got in store for you this evening, and lots of familiar faces coming into it. Okay, I'd like you to get ready because in about 20-30 minutes we're going to do some practical work. I've got my cushion ready, okay, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. I've actually tried it out today and it works fine, so I'll tell you more about that later. Okay, so what you need is if you've got a place you can work, like a massage bed or somewhere on the floor, like a futon, that'd be great. You need a pillow, and it would be good if you had a receiver to work on because, in other words, at a distance. So if you can call someone up or text them if you haven't already done it, and just ask them if they don't mind being worked on for like 15 minutes or something like that at around hour, wherever you are. Okay, you'll also need a piece of paper and a pen because I'm going to get you to draw and write things. So we're going to do some practical later on. I'm going to build up to that now. So place to work, a pillow and a receiver would be great. If not, don't worry about it because you can watch me do it. I'm going to do a demo, but if you'd like to work on someone, then that would be really cool too. Okay, so we're on webinar 2 now. Okay. Yeah.
You should lie down.
Ideally, yes. Yeah, ideally, yes. If they can just lie down for 15-20 minutes, that's great. And just go into a relaxed state so they can receive anything that you're doing and then you can get feedback afterwards. Okay, so that would be ideal, yeah. Okay, great. I think I'm as loud as I normally am. I think I am as loud as I normally am, Rose. Yeah, so, yeah. Okay, cool. Right, yes, it's now webinar 2. Last week, I'm just going to do a quick review just to show you where we are. And then this week, we're going into how to connect with our clients at a distance and how to start getting some information. So kind of like a diagnosis kind of thing. Okay, I'm really looking forward to this. Okay, so just to remind you that these 5 webinars are the live part. We're recording them all and they form a online course, which is online at New Energy Work Now. I really would advise you check that out. The forum is really active. If you've got any questions or comments or experiences, you can share them on the forum. And if you do the quizzes, we've got the first one up. You can just do the quizzes, make sure you've taken the information in, then we can give you a certificate and you can have an 8-hour CPD-C certificate at the end. Okay, so that's worth checking out. I think I'll give you, and I gave you a link, and we'll give you a link when I send you the recording for this webinar. Okay, so this evening we have the following in store for you: a review of webinar 1, and I'm going to ask you in a moment to see, I'm just going to see whether you were here last week or whether you've seen the recording. We're going to look at how you can create a connection. There's many ways you can do that to create an energy connection with your distant receiver. We're going to look at some methods of diagnosis, and I'm going to introduce you to where I started with it. So I thought it'd be good to do that. And I'm going to take you through, I'm going to talk you through a practical session. I'm going to show you the kind of things that can make it a lot easier for you, and give you, I hope to give you an experience that you can really take away and use, okay? And then we'll have a bit of time for question and answers, and I'll tell you a little bit about next week. We've got a special guest next week who I just noticed has joined us this evening. I'll tell you about that later. So I'm going to just pop a quick poll up now. I'm going to ask you about the last webinar. So have you, did you attend last week? Were you here last week? Or have you seen the recording? Or maybe you're new, because I know we've had about 30 or 40 new people sign up in the last week. So maybe you haven't had a chance to watch the recording yet. Let's just have a look and see where we're at with that. Okay, like most of you, like 80% of you were here on the last webinar live, and the rest of you, most of you seen the recording. So that's like really cool. Okay, so I'm going to just spend very few minutes just reviewing last week. And I've got a few things from the questions last week that I just want to go over before we move on to the new stuff. Okay, that's really good. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so I'm just going to do a review of last week. Most of you were here, so I'm just going to quickly go through this, and then we'll go on to doing some practical work. Okay, now if you remember that distance healing, I was quite surprised to find that it's actually the most widespread form of complementary and alternative medicine in both the UK and the US. This is the research that I've seen, information that I've got. And it's sometimes called distance healing intention. The intent, you put your intention out to heal, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. And basically it assumes that the distance between the healer and the healee is not a limiting factor. And I would actually go a little bit further than that, because it is possible to work where distance and time is not a factor. And actually Rachel last week put a question in the chat, because she'd actually been reading this book, Entangled Minds. I'll just show you this book. And this is book Entangled Minds, and I really would recommend that you get hold of this book. It's absolutely fascinating. It's written by Dean Radin, and he's like a real ruthless statistician and scientist. And he's meta-analyzed hundreds, if not thousands, of different experiments. And actually, if anyone's interested, if you turn to page 95 of this book, you'll see a whole thing about remote viewing, which is one of the things I'm going to talk a little bit more about later on. So if you go to that section, you'll see a thing about how time is not necessarily a limiting factor. In most remote viewing experiments, the time was not synchronous with actually when the person was doing the remote viewing. Okay, so that gave me the idea of putting distance sessions in for the future, and it's something that Reiki practitioners I know do a lot of. Okay, so yeah, distance definitely is not a limiting factor. Okay, that's why it's called distance healing after all. Okay, and there's loads of names for it, and here are just a few. There's about 10 or more names. Prayer, intercessory prayer, spiritual healing, auric healing, qigong healing, Reiki, shamanic healing, and the list goes on. Okay. Now the question is, and this is a lot of skeptical people will say to you, well, how can that possibly work? And they've got a good reason for saying, wondering whether it can work, because in terms of classical physics, which really dominates the way that a lot of people, especially in the West, think, it's impossible for distance healing to work, because in classical physics, it's like a clockwork universe. We're observing a mechanistic universe that's going around, and there has to be a known medium, a known way that signals or information can travel. And that's why a lot of people think it's completely irrational and it's impossible to work. And another reason why people think it's impossible is because the way we think about the brain and consciousness gives us the idea that consciousness is inside the head. Okay, and it's not something that actually acts outside in the outer world. Okay, and so, but then again, on the other hand, classical physics has been shown to be wrong by Einstein. He discovered that a lot of the assumptions of classical physics were just not true. Okay, and we have things like spooky action at a distance, where you have two particles far away from each other can act on each other without any medium. We also have the wave-particle duality, which means that somehow, in some mysterious way, consciousness itself is involved in the whole collapse of the wave function. So that started to make physicists think that maybe things weren't quite so simple, and this was way back in before the Second World War, around the 20s and 30s. Incidentally, a lot of them became very interested in Eastern mysticism, because they could see it was a way of kind of trying to understand what the hell was going on with how the universe worked. Okay, so in terms of traditional cultures, all the traditional cultures in the world, all the indigenous people in the world, have all just assumed that consciousness is not just in the brain, it's to do with your connection with the wider universe. And it's a kind of assumption, it's just an assumption that it's possible to astral travel or to be able to see or to create an effect at a distance. Okay, so really it's up to you to decide. And I know from the polls we did last week that most of you are pretty convinced, probably because of your own practical experience, that it's possible. But just to give you an idea of why a lot of people consider it irrational to believe that it's a possibility. Okay, and if you look in this book, if you read Dean Renner's book, you'll see a lot of the criticisms are talked about, and they're really dealt with in a really, really good way. We can maybe go into that in the future webinars, a few more ideas about what research has shown. Okay, now the papers I've actually seen, although there's lots and lots of experiments that show the underlying principles of distance healing are real and can be shown experimentally to be a real effect. Actual experiments that have tried to show an actual healing effect have failed to show reliable effects, but they have been very big studies and they've been quite unfocused. They've been like huge studies with people all kind of praying at random, not really focusing what they're doing, and all different levels of people in terms of distance healing intention work. So it's a difficult thing to control. However, distant mental interactions with living systems, or DMILS experiments, and you can see the paper in the online course if you want to read the entire paper. Those experiments which had distance effects on living systems have shown clear results that there is a mechanism there which tends to indicate that there is evidence that these kind of distant effects are possible. And if you add in a lot of this material that's in this book about remote sensing, you've got a pretty convincing argument to at least consider that these things are possible. Okay, and of course, if you've ever done any and you've had direct feedback, and hopefully some of the things we're going to do in a little while, then obviously you'll have direct experience of it, and of course then it's much easier to kind of believe. Right, okay, so then if you remember last week, we did some practical work. We mentioned that it is part of spiritual practice in all traditional cultures. It is an advanced technique. I believe that it develops, if you do energy work, an energy work approach to Shiatsu, it's something that you probably develop without really even realizing it. And I think when Gabriella comes on, she's our special guest next week, Gabriella Polly from Rome. She's an advanced Shiatsu practitioner. She studied with Pauline. She's a quantum Shiatsu therapist. And I think she was, when I was talking to her, she was quite surprised at just how much that ability had developed over the decades she'd been working at. When she tried it, she was really quite amazed by the effects. And I'm sure that you've probably had a very similar experience if you've tried some of the distance techniques that we've done in early webinars. Okay, so we did some exercises. We did quietening down our energy field, quietening it down, and we also did some experiential work of focusing our intention. And they were kind of like warm-up preparatory exercises. We're going to repeat something like that today before we get on to the new material, which is coming right up now. Okay, so here we go. Creating a connection. Okay, now I've got my own ways. I'm sure you've got your own ways of doing things, and I'm going to give you a poll in a minute just to find out. But I've obviously been doing some reading and some research around the whole subject in preparation for this course, and I found out that there are many ways of creating a connection, many of which I've tried, and I'm sure you have. We'll find out. Okay, because what you need is you need a way of kind of like evoking a connection with your Healy or your receiver. It's much easier if you know that person really well, because you can just kind of conjure them up just using mindset. But a lot of people use different methods. A common one that healers use is a photo, and people who do a lot of spiritual type healing will often heal just with the photo. They may not have even met the person, or they may never meet them. They may just have a photo, something that links them. Okay, some people like to use a video or an audio link. They like to have like a Zoom call or even call the person up and talk to them, okay? Other people like to have an object, okay, like a belonging of the person, or a piece of hair, like a lot of people who do dowsing do that. They just need some kind of object from the person. And another thing that I use a lot myself is the client notes, because obviously there's a lot of energy there from the recording the client notes, and they've written the health questionnaire, so they've got their writing on there. Okay, that's quite a convenient one. And the other one, which is you've probably heard of, at least in pop culture, is surrogacy, right? Which is basically you use an object to represent that person, and that can be various things. Okay, it can be another person, so you can actually have another person next to you, and they can kind of pretend that they're the other person, or the other person's energy will come through them. Obviously, with COVID, it doesn't really apply, because you, unless your lockdowns ended, like not in the UK, we can't do that at the moment, so it's not much use at the moment. But what some people do is they use themselves as the surrogate, so they actually like do work on themselves, and they kind of like resonate or harmonize their energy with the receiver. That's another method. I don't recommend that though, because that's exactly the kind of thing we try and avoid with Shiatsu energy work, because we don't really want to be taking on any energy from the receiver. So I wouldn't recommend that, but just to show you that it is there. The other thing that you've probably heard of is like voodoo type things, which is a doll or a cushion. Okay, and this is my surrogate Hara, which I'm going to use later on, and I hope you've got one too. And I'll show you how we're going to use that in a bit. Okay, so you can actually use, and when I started doing distance work, which was about, I can't even remember now, probably about 30 years ago, I used to use surrogates. I used to use a pillow for the Hara, and I used to create the image of the person on the futon in exactly the same place that they normally work. And I would keep the session extremely similar to a normal face-to-face session. I don't do that anymore, and we'll discuss how we can do it. Gabriella's got her own method she's going to be sharing with us next week. Very excited about that. And we're going to be discussing other ways to work in the next few weeks. But I thought we'd try that. So let me just shoot you a poll. I'd like to find out, I know that most of you from the poll last week have done distant work. So if you've done distant work, just would like to find out which is your favorite way to connect. So there we are, the poll's up now. Okay, so just like to find out what you're doing, because then that will give us an idea of how we can work together as a group. Okay. Okay, well, this is very, very interesting. Okay, so over 50% of you use a photo, or a video audio call is by far the most popular. And I can kind of understand that, especially with COVID and with the whole lockdown thing, because it's good to have a bit of a conversation and make a bit of a connection. And a lot of people use FaceTime or Skype or Zoom and stuff like that. Okay, great. So let's see. Let's go on, and we'll get, hopefully we're on track. We've got like 10 minutes to count down, and we can do some practical work in a minute. Okay, so that's the poll. We've just done it, and by far the winner. Others, about a third of you have got other methods of doing. So I'm really quite interested to have a look. Maybe you can just pop in the chat if you use a different method to those ones that I mentioned, which are the most common. Just maybe you could just put them in chat and we'll have a look. Okay, a sign or an image. Yeah, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Mentally with a person. Yeah, visualize them. Yeah, okay, visualize them. Yeah, exactly. That's in other. Yeah, right. That's the method I use mostly, using mindset. Yeah, feeling the person. I see. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that's really good, because that's the most direct way. If you've got a good connection with the person anyway, then it's going to be quite easy for you to do that. Okay, so that's cool. Yep, the name is good. Just saying the name, I've done that before. Right, okay, so now let's look at methods of diagnosis and treatment. Okay, as I say, I've been doing this for a long time. Haven't told anyone. Usually haven't told anyone all this time, but I've kind of had to because of the whole COVID thing. And it's just pretty much a pretty big part of my practice now. About half the sessions I do are distance healing, and about half of them are Shiatsu supervision of various types, which we covered on the last course, if you want to check that out. Okay, so the most thing that struck me when I was doing some research is a lot of distance healing is more of a kind of general thing. It's more like a general healing intention, or it can be quite specific. They might have a particular disease, but it's kind of just like kind of beaming that kind of love energy from the heart kind of thing, right? And the difference, I think, with Shiatsu, doing Shiatsu way, and I don't want to call it distance Shiatsu healing because I don't want to get into trouble again, but distance healing for Shiatsu practitioners is that we can actually do a two-way thing, because basically to make it like a Shiatsu session, we want to have a diagnosis and a treatment phase. And that's what we're going to be concentrating on today. We're going to be concentrating on diagnostic methods to kind of tune in. And what we're doing essentially there is not really distance healing intention. It's more like remote viewing, okay? So, or remote sensing, which is another technique. So the way I've developed Shiatsu distance healing, and I know a lot of other people have done it, is through this two-way thing of sensing and then doing distance healing as part of the process, okay? So that's the difference. Cool. Okay, so you might say, well, what am I going to pick up? Am I going to pick up the Hara? Am I going to pick up chakras? What am I going to pick up? Okay, and that will depend on two things. Okay, it'll depend on your knowledge and experience. So if you're used to sensing the chakras, you're used to sensing the auric field, you're used to sensing the, or you're more at home with the meridians, whatever your experience in face-to-face sessions is, that's going to influence how you experience, how you process the information. Because information will come towards you and it will resonate with you, and how you interpret it will depend on what your experience is. So that's why if you've been doing Shiatsu energy work or something like that for a long time, you'll probably be surprised when you can feel actually, in a sense, a lot of information, okay? Now that's one side of it, and the other side of it is what is the client telling you, okay? What do they want to tell you? And what I've found in the last 3 months, because I've done a lot of these, is that clients will depend just exactly the same when you do a face-to-face session. They give you different levels of information. Some clients will give you more chakra information. Some will give you very general information in field. Some will give you a really clear Hara diagnosis. So in a way, we've got to just kind of be open to whatever is there, okay? So it depends on two things: your level of experience and what the client's actually telling you. Okay, so I just wondered, those of you that have done distance healing already, the Shiatsu way, what kind of level do you tend to work on? Meridians and Tsubos, do you tend to get information on the meridians and Tsubos, which is where I started? Chakras, or maybe a specific symptom? Do you tune into the backache or the whatever it is? Or do you do more general healing intention, just kind of, I'm gonna launch a poll, so you can vote straight in, we can see what everyone says, or a mixture of the above, okay? Do you normally tend to pick up things? If you've got a tendency, if you could put that in the chat so we can get an idea of the tendency. Okay, very, very interesting. Okay, so most of you who have got a specific way of working are tending to pick up meridians and Tsubos, and that is totally cool, right? Because you're Shiatsu practitioners, it makes sense, okay? Some of you focus more on the chakras, that's fine. Some of you focus on the symptom, are good, and some give more general healing intention, okay? But most of you are using a mixture, which is what I kind of expect. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'd like us to all practice what I would call a fundamental technique today. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a Hara diagnosis, and we're going to try and get some information on some meridians and Tsubos, okay? So what we're going to do is we're pretty much exactly on time now, because we're aiming for 1/2 the hour. We're going to start the session, and we're going to work for about 15 minutes. I'm going to talk you through the whole thing, okay? So if you haven't already contacted your person, I want you to just contact them by text message, maybe give them a call and just say, hey, look, we're on track. If you can lie down at 1/2 for 15 minutes, maybe 15, maybe 20 minutes, just let them relax, contact them after the webinar and see how they felt about what happened. Okay, in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to set you up. We're going to start to quieten our energy field down. We're going to connect with the receiver. We're going to spend 5 minutes doing that, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to use a Hara. We're going to use a pillow as a surrogate poppet, as a surrogate Hara, okay? Yeah, Dinah, are there some questions?
There's rather an important question from Almut. He'd like to know if he has to tell the person about the healing session. Am I allowed to do it without telling them? It seems an important thing to address.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, opinions differ on this. Okay, my personal view is yes, you should ask their permission. You should definitely ask their permission, and I think especially for shiatsu-based healing work, because it's so specific. You know, general prayer, you know, praying for someone in a general way, I think is okay. But I know opinions differ. It's up to your responsibility as your own practitioner in the end. But my personal view is you should ask the person. Yeah, and apart from anything else, I like to know what they felt. We're going to do a Hara diagnosis. I'm going to sense at the channel level. I'm going to get you to sense the channels and see if you can find some Tsubos. So, hey, are you ready? Okay, let's do it. I've got this all set up. So I'm going to bring this down and you're going to be able to see me working. And I'm going to talk you through the whole thing, okay? I would like you to have your pen and paper ready because we're going to just record the Hara diagnosis, okay? Now you have to have a lumpy-free pillow, okay? I'll just turn this off so that you can see, get me full screen. Okay, you should have a lump-free pillow, okay? This pillow is totally smooth. There's no lumps in it at all. There's no hard bits or soft bits. It's all smooth. I made sure about that, okay? And the reason for that is because in a minute, you're going to feel stuff on here and you're not going to believe what you're feeling, okay? You'll think it's going to be lumpy, believe me, okay? That's what happened to me the first time, okay? Now, I did this twice this afternoon just in preparation, so I know these pillows work. Okay, so I'll just talk you through, we'll do it together, okay? So you should have contacted your client by now or your receivee, okay? We've got like 3 minutes to get ready, that's fine. I've got some client notes here, which I'm going to use. I'm just going to place them next to me. That's good enough. And now we're going to start off by clearing our energy field, okay? So I'd like you to just get comfortable, all right? And just forget about the receiver for now. Just tune into your own energy field, okay? And we're going to just go into our alignment. So we're floating our head up and we're sinking our sacrum down and allowing our spine to just relax. Relaxing our jaw, relaxing the rib cage front and back, opening up the shoulders, relaxing the hips. Okay, and then just get in touch with the whole of your energy field. And we're going to quieten our energy field down. Okay, so we're quietening our physical body by releasing. Quietening our emotional body, we're just letting go of any emotions that might be coming up. Quietening our mind, just letting our thoughts relax. Okay, and we're just becoming aware of our spiritual body around us. We're just getting in touch with that calmness. Okay, I'm just going to let that soak all the way down through you so you're just really, really calm. Okay, so now we've got 1 minute left and we're going to evoke the presence of our receivee. Okay, so we'll be ready in a minute or two. All right. And so the way you do that is you've got your object, you might have a photo, I've got client notes, whatever it is, or we might just visualize them, which is fine too. Okay, that's what I do most of the time these days. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to sit in an aligned position. We're going to get in touch with that spiritual part of the aura. So we're in touch with our aura, we're quietening everything down. All right. Okay, and now I just want you to imagine that this pillow is their Hara and they're lying on your futon right here, okay? And I just want you to visualize them. Okay, if you've got any problems, you can just touch the notes, or you can just look at the photo, or you can just use your imagination a bit more. Okay, and just imagine it there. Okay, that's very good. Right, so they're right there. Okay, don't worry if it fades out. Okay, you just don't need to worry about anything like that. Okay, the session started. We've got 15 minutes now. Okay, you take it nice and slowly. Right? So you're imagining them here. Next thing you want to do is make contact with the surrogate. Okay, with the Hara. Okay, I'll bring it into view so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Okay, just move my client over a bit. Right, okay, here we go. Right, so keeping your attention on your client, or your receiver, I should say, we're going to bring the arm up with a minimum amount of effort. We're going to place it on the Hara, on the surrogate Hara. Okay, okay. Now we realign, okay, and we make sure that the client is visualized there. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to maximize the non-local information about the meridians into the Hara. Okay, actually we do this anyway with energy work techniques, but it's very important when we're doing distant work, and I'll show you how you do that. Okay, you've got the imagined client here. Okay, take your hand and we're going to palpate the heart diagnostic area, which is right here. Okay, now as we palpate the heart diagnostic area, okay, we keep our attention into this information field around us. So we're not focusing in on the pillow with our touch. We're contacting the meridian energy there, okay, that we can visualize in the field, and that will maximize the difference that you feel in the diagnostic area. Okay, all right, just trust me on that. Okay, so here we go. Keeping it relaxed, we're quietening our energy field down. We're tuning into the heart energy of the visualized client. Okay, and that's the heart. Okay, just remember what that feels like. Okay, now we're going to go to gallbladder. So we go to gallbladder. Okay, again, keeping our perception out in the energy field there. Right, okay. Now the question you ask yourself now is, did they feel the same? Did the heart and the gallbladder feel exactly the same? And I bet you they didn't, okay? And that difference is the difference between the energy of the gallbladder and the heart. Got it? Okay. Now, you'll probably, if you're like me, you probably think, wow, there's got to be a lump in that pillow. But if you just squash the pillow just to be sure, there's no lump there, okay? What you've done is you've superimposed into the physical realm, into your physical perception, the energetic information of the meridians, okay? And in actual fact, you are doing that most of the time when you're doing a face-to-face session. It's just we don't realize it so much because the client's there. Oh, we're feeling the, this is the heart meridian because the client's there. But actually, a lot of the information that you're feeling is non-local. The great thing about distance work is it deconstructs it and it will show you. Okay, so let's carry on. Okay, so we've got gallbladder, right? Stay with me, okay? Quieten the energy field. Tune in to the visualized client, okay? Liver. Okay, did that feel different? Lung. Okay, back up to heart. Just doing it with one hand for the moment. Let's go to stomach. Okay, remember you're tuning into the information in the field here of your imagined client related to the stomach channel. Very good. Okay, very good. Triple heater. Okay, lung. Back up to heart again. Okay, just keep renewing it, nice and relaxed. Visualize, align, quieten down. Heart protector. Okay, now I know I've got a bit of heart protector energy going on and I could feel something here, so I'm going to make sure I minimize my thing by quietening down my own heart protector, clearing my energy out again and repalpating. Okay, sometimes you get a hint that you're picking up your own Hara diagnosis, and that can happen in face-to-face sessions as well. To minimize that, you quieten your energy down, recheck. Okay, good. Spleen. Okay, kidney. Okay, don't tune into the pillow, tune into the field, tune into here. Tune into the visualization of the client. Imagine the channels, imagine the meridians. Yeah, okay, bladder. Okay, large intestine. Small intestine. Okay, large intestine. Small intestine. Okay, I'm just doing a lump check here. No, there's no lump. Okay, small intestine and large intestine felt totally different. Okay, and I would have convinced there was a lump in my pillow, but there isn't. Okay, it was just the energy perception into the hand. Okay, cool. Now that's taken us about 6 minutes. Normally it'd be very quick, but I wanted to take you through each stage. So now let's see if we can do a Kyojitsu reaction. Whoa, okay. So I want you to pick the most Jitsu meridians and the most Kyo meridians that you had. Okay. So if you've been following me and you haven't got someone to work with, you probably noticed that gallbladder and liver are Jitsu. Okay, kidney and bladder a little bit Jitsu. Small intestine, heart's a little bit more Kyo. Lung and large intestine more Kyo. Okay, so now we're going to do a Kyojitsu reaction. Okay, so you put your hand on the Jitsu area. Okay, tune into the field again. Get that feeling again. Make sure you get your visualization here. Okay, and then if you're familiar with the Kyojitsu reaction technique, you know what you do. You try and find a Kyo meridian that tends to release this. Okay, so I'm going to go for small intestine. Yeah, okay. Okay, so it's basically gallbladder Jitsu, small intestine Kyo, just check the liver. Okay, so you want to do it a bit slower than me probably. Just systematically hold the Jitsu, go around some Kyos and see if you can feel some connections. Again, you're not feeling the connection in the pillow, you're feeling the connection in your body and in this energetic field here. Okay, feels exactly the same as it does when you do a face-to-face session, in actual fact, because a lot of it you'd feel as resonances in the field. Okay, very good. All right, so now we've got another 10 minutes or something like that, or maybe a little bit less, to do some meridian work. Okay, now I'm going to do it two ways. I'm going to do it through visualizing, and I'm going to do it through palpating the field. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is to make it more real for you is probably better if you pick a Jitsu or a Kyo meridian that you picked up in the Hara. Okay, so I got gallbladder, so I'm going to do gallbladder. I'm going to go down the gallbladder channel. It's nice and easy to get to, or I could pick maybe the heart. Okay, so I'm going to pick the heart and the gallbladder because I've got one on the leg, one on the arm. All right, I'm just going to show you how to do like a meridian scan and just see what happens. All right, so just pick Jitsu meridian on the Hara that you picked up on your pillow Hara. Okay, and now we're going to do like a visualization. I'm going to travel down that channel and see if we can feel anything exciting happening there. All right, so we're going to align again. We're quietening down our energy field. We visualized our receiver here. Okay, and I'm visualizing his leg here or here, both legs. Okay, right, and I'm scanning with my intention. Keep your eyes open or closed. I'm scanning down the channel all the way down, just using my intention. Okay, so it's like a scan. All right, so let's just try that. You just pick a limb, pick a meridian, and I'll talk you through it. Okay, so aligning, quietening down. Okay, that's good. A little bit quieter. Yeah, okay, that's good. All right, and now we're going to visualize the channel on the arm and the leg. That's the Jitsu channel. Okay, maybe a little bit tighter in. Think of it as more like a tube, not so big. Okay, Okay, and then we're going to scan down it. So we're going from either the hip or the shoulder, down the channel, down to the elbow or knee. And you ask yourself, does it feel the same all the way down? Okay, and then we're going to go down from the elbow or the knee, down to the foot or the hand, depending on whether you're on the arm or the leg. Sensing it, imagining you're sensing it, going down there. Does it all feel the same? Does anything feel a bit different? Because that could be Tsubos, you see, on the channels. Okay, very good. So let's visualize maybe something in the arm, or we're going to visualize a Kyo meridian. If they're both in the leg, that's fine, whatever, it doesn't matter, okay? So I'm going to use the heart meridian, and I'm going to connect in the arm here. So I'm going to tune in to the heart energy. And I'm imagining my mind is going along here through the channel there. Okay, so we're going towards the elbow or the knee. And then towards the hand or the foot, depending on whether you're the leg or the arm. Okay, now you may pick up something, it may feel fairly smooth, you might find certain places, okay? And the next thing we're going to do, which in the next few minutes, is we're just going to actually scan down some channels. Okay, and this is how I used to work back in the day. I used to do this. I used to actually go through the entire session as if the client was there, visualizing them there in 3 dimensions. So I think it's a very good practice. I tried it this afternoon just to see if I could still do it for this webinar, and it works fine. Okay, so what I would do now is I'd hold the area on the Hara there that you picked up, get that feeling back in again, okay? And then I'm going to scan down the gallbladder channel, okay? Now I've got a memory of a few places where I scanned down when I was sitting, so I've got a bit of an idea of things, but let's just see what happens, okay? Alignment, quietening down, tuning in. Okay, so if you do that, you go along like that, and you probably going to feel 1 or 2 places where it doesn't feel quite so smooth going through, and they're the Tsubos, okay? And we can work those directly by imagining pressing, just like we would do in a face-to-face session. We can use key projection. Why don't you just pick one Tsubo and see if you can get a key connection between your mother hand and your working hand. Okay, all right, and you may even feel some reactions here, just like face-to-face session. Okay, so I'm going to go down a bit more. This is the equivalent of palming. Okay, and then down. Okay, so, and I can feel it quite clearly around here. I can feel a reaction here in the hand. Okay, it's gallbladder 34 here. So I'm going to work that point. And sure enough, it has a strong connection here with the gallbladder channel. Okay, how are we doing for time? Okay, we've got another couple of minutes. Okay, so we just do a little bit more. Okay, so we're just scanning down, finding any Tsubos and working them. Okay, I'm going to work now on the arm. So maybe you want to switch to another limb, and we'll just have a go at that. Okay, so here we go. I'm connecting with the Kyo meridian now. Okay, we do all kinds of stuff that we'd normally do, like Kyojutsu reactions and stuff like that. Okay, I'm going to work around here, the same thing. I've got a few ideas. This is equivalent of palming. I'm just going along. Okay, so I've got heart 3 here, reacting. Not much else really, mainly heart 3. Okay, so again, this is like palming. Probably I'd go here, and sure enough, I can feel a connection here with this hand. Key projection. Okay, so I'm like calming down. Okay, heart 7's a little bit active now, so I'm going to just use that. Okay, you see it's very similar to when you're working in a face-to-face session. Okay, very good. All right, so now let's go back, have a quick check, see if there's been any change. It's only a 10-minute session, so we can't expect too much, but let's see. Okay, we've got heart, gallbladder. Okay, now I just concentrate a little bit too much on the pillow there, so I'm going to get this back again, get my visualization back again, and I'm now tuning back out and quietening myself down. Yeah. Okay, there's a little bit of change. Okay, so that's what you do. If you suddenly feel you're feeling the pillow and not feeling the client, then you can zone in again by aligning, opening your awareness out, visualizing them here. Okay, and you'll get it back. You'll get the feeling back. Okay, and that's how you can do it. So now it's a good idea to just close it off. So what I normally do is I'll go into my alignment again. I'll put a protective bubble around the client to finish it off. Okay, and then quite often what I'll do is I'll just clap 3 times. Okay, and I'll just clear the space so you detach yourself from the client. Very much like when you do a face-to-face session. So yeah, that's what I was doing about 15 or 20 years ago. And as I say, I did 2 sessions, 2 distant sessions this afternoon. And I used the Hara, surrogate Hara method, because I thought I better make sure I can still do it before the webinar. So great. I hope you enjoyed that. And actually, what I would really like to know, I guess, is your experiences. So maybe you could just put your experiences in the chat, or maybe I tell you what, if you felt something, then maybe you just put your thumb up, straight up, felt something. And if you've got any questions, then you can ask me some questions. Yeah, so just a thumbs up if you felt something. If you haven't done it before, I think you might be quite surprised at how physical it is. And like I say, this afternoon, I was convinced there was a lump in this pillow. I was going like, I was so strong on this client. I was like, no, there's got to be a lump in this pillow. But no, it wasn't. It was just that meridian information. And the interesting thing is it really makes you start thinking about, well, how much, and I was talking to Gabriella the other day about this. She mentioned that in a previous webinar, when we were doing the multi-language webinars a couple of months ago, I said, how much of the information that you pick up on the Hara is actually physically located in the Hara? And the answer is quite often not very much. A lot of that information you're getting is actually non-temporal, non-spatial information. So when you do distance work, especially if you use a surrogate thing like a pillow, it can be quite a shock to feel how physical it feels, because what we think is physical mostly is energetic. When you're talking about meridians, you're talking about emotional, you're talking about mental and spiritual aspects that do not have a 3-dimensional physical location. So what happens when we do the Hara is we condense that information into the touch. So we say, oh, the Shen, I can feel the Shen. It feels empty. It feels Kyo. The heart feels Kyo. Is the heart really empty on a physical level? It may not be, but it may be a spiritual thing or an emotional thing that you're picking up on, and you translate that into a 3-dimensional perception. It's one of the ways that we interpret the energetic field. And the thing I like about distance work is it's a great way of really deconstructing the whole energetic thing. Okay, cool. I think it's time for some questions. We've only got 10 minutes left. It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it. I'm just going to have a quick look at the slides because I didn't get through all the slides last week. Okay. That's about next week. Yeah, I'll just take some questions and then we'll just, I'll just leave a few minutes at the end. I'm just going to click into the questions. Woohoo. Okay. Does the receiver need to lie down? Okay, they don't necessarily have to, but I prefer it. This is Caroline. I'm just going to click this up. Yeah. They don't have to. And I've done sessions where the person's, been walking home from work or, whatever. But I mean, I think to get the most out of it is quite nice if they do because there's not any distractions. They can feel what's happening. Okay. Hopefully Mia Maggie was okay. What's the page number in the book? I think that was answered, wasn't it? Entangled Minds, it's page 95 and 96, Caroline. Yeah. Oh, that's a really interesting, Satchanandi. Look at this. This is a really deep question, okay? Can you help someone who's died, for example, with suicide by sending healing to them around the time of their death to help them in their current situation? Okay, well, that's a really deep question about karma and about the nature of life and death. My feeling is that you can do all kinds of things like that, okay? And it depends a bit on what your philosophy is about what happens when you die, about the stages of the bardo. There's a whole Tibetan thing about that. You probably know about that. So anything's possible. And in fact, Reiki practitioners do that kind of thing all the time. I was really impressed by the amount of information out there. And I know a lot of you do Reiki yourself. And I can see why the attraction of it as well. Right, this is this question we had before about asking them things. Opinions differ, and if you read up, you will hear different opinions. Alma, but my opinion is you should definitely ask them and get their permission. All right, Jane asked a question. Want to work gallbladder on the head, but can't reach if I keep my hand on the hara. Okay, very good. Okay, well, that's a great thing about distance work. Shrink them. I think someone saw that. You could just shrink them. Yeah, just shrink them. You can make them to the size of a doll. That'd be great. Really good. Yeah. Or you can just imagine your hands on the hara, which is what we do actually with advanced energy work techniques anyway, and we can't reach things. We scan through the body. So it's all good practice. I've been working with some clients. Can you do too much? Okay, Tina, can you do too much with the client, you mean? Or do too much for yourself? Maybe, Tina, you can ask me. Do you mean, maybe if just pop it in the chat and Diana will mark it up as a question. Tina wants to know, can you do too much? You can overwork some clients. I think that's true. You can do it with a normal face-to-face session. You can overwork them. Maybe you can provoke. It's difficult to know. It's a philosophical thing. Is it too much, or maybe they just need that to get into another space? Personally, what I do is I tune in as I'm tuning into the session. When I tune in, and if I get the feeling that it's done, that the session's done, then I'll just hold the space for maybe 10 or 15 minutes at the end. And can you do too much yourself? It depends on your own health, your own spiritual practice, and whether you feel comfortable. Okay, how does the client get involved? From Jeremy. Okay, well, that can vary. I mean, I really like my clients to lie down and I've done all sorts of things. I've had them pretend they're in here. Some of my clients like to pretend they're in here. They remember the sessions they used to have in here when they could come in. That helps with the whole vibe. Some people just like to just totally relax and not do anything. Some people go to sleep. It's really up to you and up to the client to negotiate that. Right, okay, this is an interesting one from Petra. Is it necessary to move around with a pillow? You just tune to the same spot with tuning to different fields. Yes, you can do that. And that's even more spooky because suddenly your pillow will get lumpy and not lumpy in the same place. And that's really can be very, very mind-boggling. But yeah, it's absolutely true. You don't need to move around. The only reason I suggest that is because all those years of training that you've done have programmed you to tune in to the energy of the meridians with the Hara diagnostic area. So you've got loads of embedded programming there. So when you put your hand on the heart area, it's going to go gallbladder. But if you can do that with your intention, it's fine. You don't need to move your hand. And that is actually true, by the way, with face-to-face sessions as well. Okay, well, next time you do a face-to-face session, surprise yourself, hold on to one diagnostic area, think around the Hara, and you'll be amazed. You'll be able to feel all of them. It's the nature of the holographic nature. Okay, Melinda, what specific questions do you ask the client about the experience? I don't generally ask them anything specific unless I've had a strong reaction, like I felt recently I had a case where a client, I felt this rush of energy halfway through the session. Quite often I'll write the time on the session when I feel it. And I sometimes ask them, what happened? And they'll say, well, actually, she said she had this really strong headache, a liver release. So I don't normally ask them. I usually just keep it open. How was it? What kind of thing was it? That's what I do. But it's up to you. Maybe you want to, okay. Roger asks, are you condensing the field in energetic form with boundaries so that it can be felt more strongly in this method? Yes, I am. Absolutely, yeah. And exactly what I did, Roger. I wanted to make it as dense as I could for you so that you can feel it if you haven't done much of it before. In future sessions, Gabriella's going to talk a lot about chakras next time, and we'll work up. So by the 4th webinar, we'll be working on different vibrational levels, and it won't be so condensed. But I think it's really cool to have a really physical, 3-dimensional experience of a great lump in the pillow. It's really good. Right, okay. Here, we've got so many questions, haven't we? Yes, you're penetrating the Tsubos energetically and having the conviction it balances out, feels it really happens. Yep, absolutely. I totally agree. That's a great thing about using your Shiatsu knowledge, using all of those point knowledges and all that thing, because that's a way of focusing your attention. And just what you've done is, over all these years you've been doing Shiatsu, you've actually created a structure which can be translated into non-temporal, non-spatial work. Wow, okay, got so many questions. Here we go. This is really great. Oh, here's Nicholas. Okay. Do you suggest a method that's better for you or adapt to what could connect more with each client? Okay, what I try and do is keep as open as I can and see what the client gives me, and then I work with it. But I've got quite a wide range of techniques. Sometimes I do really specific physical things, like with the neck. I was working on the neck today with the client. Sometimes I'll check resonances with the Hara. Sometimes I'll work Tsubos. I've done that recently, Tsubos. Other times I'll work chakras. And then you get into more advanced energy work techniques like mindset and modeling, which Gabriella is going to be talking about next week. Because when you go less dense, you need less dense techniques. Yeah, okay, this is a good one, right? Can you not use a pillow and actually use nothing? Yeah, left my hand just above it. Yeah, sure, you can do that. You can do like an etheric thing, exactly the same. Yeah, and if you're used to doing etheric work, then that's great. Right, here we go. I project an image of myself instead of a receiver and think it works, like doing. Do you think it's possible? It is possible. Absolutely, Caroline. And if you remember when I did the slides earlier about surrogacy, a lot of healers do that. They work on themselves, and that's perfectly okay if you feel that's okay for you. Personally, I like to keep the client's energy away from me, but it's completely personal choice. And if you do the research, you'll find that lots of people really do that. Rose says, Stephen Porter says, it's most important thing is people feel safe in their body, especially for spiritual practice. But you say it can be all in the field. Yeah, but you do keep it safe. You do try and keep a safe space though. That's really important. You keep the whole, it's feeling safe on all levels, physical, survival, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So yeah, I think that's really important to create that. Okay, feeling a shiver. Yep, that's good. That happens when you do face-to-face sessions. That's just energy connections moving. So yeah, that's definitely happens. I'll look at this. This is good. Alison, yeah. Clean questions as part of the pre-diagnostic got really clear images to work with. Yep, absolutely. It does work. Clean questions are great. You can even ask the field clean questions. What is it like? And in fact, I kind of did that. Remember I said, with that, I said, compare, see what it's like. What is the heart area like? What's the gallbladder like? And do they feel the same? Okay, this is another question that's come up before. Vanetta Roll, yeah, okay. Can we be too open to other energies when doing distance healing? And how do we protect ourselves? This came up earlier on with some of the work we did. Okay, you can be too open, but that can happen with face-to-face sessions as well. I've had students that have not been able to contain their perceptions with face-to-face sessions, even with the body. So it can happen in any healing situation. It all comes down to alignment, knowing yourself, and creating boundaries. Creating that boundary of visualizing the client and having a direct connection with them will stop any other outside influences coming in, okay? But that can happen exactly the same if you do a face-to-face thing. Wow, that's such a lot of questions. Really good questions. I hope that's helped. And I really want to get to the last slide, and you'll know why in a minute, okay? Next week, Gabriella, can't wait. So much fun. We're going to have so much fun with her. We're going to look at mindset modeling. She's going to show you what she does, so it's not all what I'm doing and stuff like that. We'll do some practical work as well using mindset and modeling. Okay, this is very important because We're giving out all of our paid content free since COVID, which means we are relying entirely on you to help us. I know that many of you are regular donators. You may have a membership from when we used to pay, when we used to have it as a paid thing, and that's really good. And we're so happy that you're continuing your subscriptions. But most people are actually paying as we go. And we just ask you, if you could give us some money, that would be fantastic. There's a donate button on New Energy Work. And we suggest like 10 euros a webinar if you can afford it, 50 euros for the whole course. Or if you've got some money and you want to donate and be like a benefactor, you can help by paying for people who can't. And there are a lot of Shiatsu people out there who've got no other income, just like us. The New Energy Work team have no other income from clients now. We're just doing online work and we're doing our online sessions. And so obviously it's really important for all of us. And I know that a lot of you are in a lot of financial difficulties. Please don't worry. If you can't afford anything right now, it'll all come back. The energy will come back in the end. So please don't feel you have to, but if you can help us, we really would appreciate that. Okay, so see you next week. Any questions, go to the support tab on New Energy Work, see if we can answer your questions with the FAQs before you email us, because we are getting massive upload of emails every day. But if you do need help, do email us and Shakura will help you out, hopefully. Okay, Dinah. Whoa, that was really great. I really enjoyed that. It's really good. And I hope you really enjoyed it too. Yep, I'm going to hopefully.
Somebody just asked, why is it in dollars? Just to emphasize, it's euros, actually.
Euros. It's in euros. Yeah, it's in euros because Europe is our biggest market. But it doesn't matter. You can just click on it.
Anything is welcome.
Anything is welcome. Yes, really, really welcome. I hope you really enjoyed it. Loads of thumbs up. And yeah, lots of familiar names. Right, I think we better go, Dinah.
Lovely to see you all, people. Bye.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.